Go. And welcome back to another episode of the New Generation Challenge podcast. We are back for a week after missing last week. Sorry about that. I was totally out of the country and didn't see the episode until this morning. But we're back and getting ready to go into the final.
Yeah, I think it was a good episode, just overall, and I do like how, like we're going into the final when there's four teams left, and I like how they didn't do like a daily like last time where there was like another star available for everybody,
Yep.
um, because then like Laurel would have to depend on like I need to get thrown into elimination or I did like how it ended and I'm excited for the final, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. And it worked well in this one too, to have that be the situation because you did have every team but one as a star holder. So that
Yeah.
gives that one team still the chance to earn their star, and everybody else is trying to keep the one that they already have. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're Nany and Turbo, it's either win or you're out one way or the other, but you're not gonna see like three teams possibly get dropped right before the final.
Yeah. And speaking of that, just the episode opened up, everybody that the final was coming. But I feel like from the last few seasons, we've seen that the final usually always happens when there's four males and or in this case, like four pairs, like eight
Yeah,
people left. But in individual seasons, we've seen it when there's four
it
females.
always tends to be a challenge thing. I find that people, when they're playing, seem to think the show is earlier than it is. They lose the
Yeah.
ability of kindergarten counting.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm always like, no, the final is not coming. Like, even if like we knew like, okay, this is episode 10, so that means that the final is coming, like, no.
Yeah, they will not do the final at five. They could do it at four. They could do it at three. I can see that. But
Hmm.
five, 10 people in a final out of a season of like 32 is just too many.
Hmm. I agree. And we saw Adam say like, nope, this is like I'm willing to bet there's another week.
Yeah.
And
And
obviously,
I think that was a great scene too, because of everybody left in this house, Adam is like the most well grounded and down to earth common sense player that's really running the show compared
hmm
to all these massive personalities that we see with like Nicole and Melissa and Turbo and Frank and Shane.
Yeah, I agree. I think Adam is a very almost like a father figure for the whole
Yeah,
cast, like including like the older people anyways. I feel like he's very calm, cool and collective and very rational and reasonable.
absolutely.
Um so I enjoyed seeing that.
All right. And then we get into another clip right after Adams correctly says it's going to go for another week, where we see, even though it's a season called Rivals, Melissa and Nicole seem to be getting along pretty well and have put anything that both of them have had with Loyal behind them, and that's not causing conflict.
Yeah, I thought this part was interesting. Obviously, we'll talk about that more later when we see or we talk about what happened later on in the episode. But like Nicole just says that they're getting along very well and they're closer, or close as like friends or whatever. Which is kind of interesting because, like you said, like after everything that happened with Laurel, and these two have hooked up in the past, and that always like not always doesn't always end up very well. As we've seen on like X's
Yeah.
seasons. But Adam kind of talks about how on All Stars 4, this was the point of the game where he had his star stolen.
Yeah.
So he's kind of getting almost like PTSD from that.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially in a season like this one where Adam and Steve have just won and won and won. And it's like, could you imagine winning four eliminations and a few dailies and just going home one week before the final?
Yeah, and we see that like and Turbo are kind of experienced Adam experience, like getting their star stolen right now from the past elimination, which I think is kind of like that kind of sucks because like
Yeah,
they didn't take it to battle out for your star necessarily in the elimination arena. And yeah, they're just kind of having that same emotions probably that Adam had.
absolutely. All right, so moving into the daily, it's called Pressure Sandwich, where the players must race through the forest while sandwiching puzzle pieces together, or as they're referred to as by Adam as holding 10 rolls of toilet paper without dropping them all. Once he said that, I couldn't get that image out of my head.
Yeah, and then they have to, so I guess they started with four and then they have to collect more up to 10, I think it
Yeah,
was, from each station. And if they drop if they drop anything outside of the safe zone area, then they have to go back to the previous station.
right.
Um, but it kind of seemed difficult. Well, I guess,
It
and then
seemed
after
extremely
they have to
difficult.
solve the puzzle, but yeah, it looked difficult because like you have to focus on being efficient because obviously if you're going super slow, you're never going to get to the puzzle, but
Yeah.
also you don't want to keep dropping everything and having to go back and start again at the past station. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
not an easy challenge by any means, especially like I was just saying about what coming from what Adam was saying at the beginning of the episode, not with these massive characters who all tend to be very dramatic, let's say.
yeah, and I feel like this is a really good challenge for a rival season, I think, because
Hmm.
like you are with your rival, or I guess not in like most of them get along by now, but you're still somebody that you've had difficulties with, whether that's like in a challenge in a game
Most
before,
of
and
them
then
is the key point that you make.
yeah,
There's
um,
certainly one team that's not getting along, as we'll get to.
yeah, and so you've already had like the most of these teams, except maybe Melissa and Nicole, have like been working together in the past and have had some sort of conflict working together. And then this challenge just kind of brings that back out because you're depending on your partner being able to hold the whatever they're called puzzle pieces
Yeah.
together. And it's really easy to get frustrated.
Yeah, absolutely. There's nothing that's more frustrating than one of these things that just looks so basic, but in practice is so complicated.
Yeah. And I feel like some people watching it were probably like, "Oh my God, that looks easy." But I was like,
You go do
that looks awful."
it. Yeah.
But we see Frank and Sam working very, very well together during
Yeah.
daily. And I think
Absolutely.
like whole season we saw them kind of struggling a lot at the beginning.
Yep.
And during the dailies, they've been able to rely on each other's strengths very well and have worked very, very well together. And this challenge was no different.
Yeah, very much so. Um, that's definitely a relationship that didn't start off well, but that is really the epitome of what is All Stars, where, oh, sorry, what is Rivals, where Frank and Sam have grown from being a team that looked like a complete layup in episode 1 and 2 to potentially winning the game.
Yeah. And on the other hand, we see Shane and Devon are not working very well together.
No, and this is the team I was m hinting at earlier.
Yeah. And it just looks like there's a lot of yelling, whatever. But at the end of, I guess Melissa and Nicole were struggling a lot too, which we've seen them do that in dailies, which I think is very entertaining to watch. Because you've
Yeah,
got these two girls that like or Nicole said they're 100 pounds or 130 pounds soaking wet, and they're going against like Adam and Steve. And just have loved seeing them compete in the challenges.
yeah, absolutely. But they're still there at the end of the game. And if you make it to the final, that's not necessarily going to be who's the biggest player is the one that is going to end up winning. It depends what combination of skills you can put together based on what TJ throws at you.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, Frank and Sam won this. I saw on Twitter that it was by a lot, apparently, a lot more than what it was shown.
Yeah.
But
Which
yeah, they
doesn't
get their
surprise me based on how well they were performing throughout the challenge.
their third daily win, which is very impressive.
Yeah, very impressive. Like I was saying, complete reversal from the first couple episodes when you could swear that they would not be able to work together at all. And through this win, I mean, if you haven't seen it now, it's going to get spoiled in 20 minutes anyway. So by winning this challenge, they become the first team to make TJ's final of the season.
Yeah. And speaking of TJ, we have once TJ is announcing that Frank and Sam win, we didn't really get to see happen, but Shane said to Adam, like, don't touch me like that, or something weird that, and I tried rewinding it a little bit, but it wasn't easy to see.
Yeah.
And Adam just kind of gets this, and then we see like dad Adam, and he out Shane for being disrespectful, not to him, but also just or to his partner throughout the
Yeah.
whole challenge. And I really liked that.
Oh,
Honestly,
so did I.
I love when men stand up against other men who are treating women badly.
Yeah.
And Shane kind of has like a and TJ him on a timeout basically, and then just continues on with whatever he was saying, which I thought was kind of funny.
Yeah, that was an excellent moment from Adam. And at this point, you would have to think that Adam's probably in that position where he's really knows what's going on in every corner of the house.
Yeah, 100%. And I like we talked about, seeing him like stand up for what he believes in.
Yeah. And then after the daily, we also see a um confessional where Nany is right away knows that the season's almost over and says that she's gonna put herself into elimination if the house will vote along with that, but she's also worried that the house may not decide to vote along with that as a way to send her and Turbo home.
Yeah, and I think that's a hard spot to be in, because you like I think what sucks even more getting eliminated by just because you don't have a star.
Yeah.
Like I feel like it would be awful to go home without even having the chance to go into elimination, which is like something that they were facing. But one thing I want to talk about, this happened like directly after the daily, and Adam was defending Davon after being attacked by Shane. And I was on Twitter last night and I saw that Sam said that they did not show half of the vulgar shit that said and did to her during that challenge.
Oh well.
And yeah, I don't know. I thought that was kind of interesting. But I do like we all know Frank and Frank and Shane don't like each other.
Yeah.
I don't know if you follow them on social media, but they are not fans of each other.
No.
And I have a clip I want to play, or just the sound of it,
Sure.
where Frank talks about why he had a dislike for Shane, and I think it brings in like an important conversation just
Absolutely.
in life. So I'm gonna play that.
We gotta go back to the start because I feel like something. So I'm gonna spell plain and simple for you. What
ABCs.
What happened from day one when we got to this show is Shane and Corey hooked up. Look, I know it's my word versus his. I'm not gonna involve Corey here because he's done. Like Corey's checked out, y'all. Like the internet is a rough ass place, and he needs to take time for himself. I'm not gonna pull him into this. It's my word versus his. You can believe whoever you want to believe. I know the truth. I'm sitting happy in my truth. In the truth. Corey and Shane hooked up. Whatever. They then on the show hooked up again, just like a kiss. Something simple, whatever. After that kiss, let me tell you exactly what happened so you aren't confused. And this will also come into play when we talk about what happened with Davon and I later. They kissed immediately. Immediately, Shane went around the house playing victim, being like, "Oh, I didn't want that to happen. I can't believe how aggressive Corey is." That was the word that he used. He said Corey was really aggressive. Now, and understanding in the world in which we live, in the context in which we live, calling a person of color, a black man, aggressive right after you consensually hook up isn't really a great look. That same evening, Davon came up to me. Davon to me. Davon to Frank. Frank and Davon do have a relationship on this show, whether it's shown or not, whatever she wants to say in post. I really respect Davon. I respect the space she takes up in the world. I respect the things that she represents. I'm not going to speak badly about Davon. You haven't heard me do it. I haven't shaded her. Even in tonight's fight, I wasn't disrespectful to her. I'm not going to do it. It's just not the case. Okay. Davon comes up to Frank that night. Davon expresses how upset she is with the vernacular that Shane used, i.e. aggressive, with Corey. Corey is crying. This is upsetting. This is a hard thing to do. Davon and I have a very serious conversation about it. She is very upset. She goes and consoles Corey. She's like, "We're on the same page. Thank you for being here. I'm grateful she's there. I'm grateful we can have the."
So that's really deep subject, but I did want to bring it up because I think it's like important to talk
Yeah,
about.
absolutely.
In another or longer clip, I just clipped it short. But basically they were playing a game of truth or dare, and then somebody dared Shane to kiss Corey. Shane goes and kisses Corey. That's what Shane is calling aggressive when he was the one that was initiated that. And I don't know, I think it's important to know that we don't see everything.
Yeah,
obviously.
absolutely.
And I do agree with Frank that in the state that we live in, it using the term aggressive towards like a person of color is not a very good look.
Yeah,
And I think it
absolutely.
gives a lot of context on why Adam was stepping up and putting his foot down against that, and also why Frank was so anti Shane the whole season.
Makes sense. Couldn't agree more. Great addition. Thanks so much for adding that in, because that was something I did not know. You're definitely right on that we don't see everything, and that's one thing that's so important in any show. But I know I've done the math for it in Survivor. I haven't done the math in terms of the challenge yet, because every season is a different length. It would be impossible to know for sure since we don't get day counts. But in terms of like Survivor, it's something like it take we have to remember that we see something like 3 minutes per beach per day on the screen out of 24 hours. So the so much happens that doesn't get shown, and not because it's not important, but simply because the production just decides they have another storyline that they want to communicate, and they're simply out of airtime unless they want to make the show into Australian Survivor, which has 3 episodes a week, and even therefore doesn't probably scratch the surface of that show either.
Yeah, and I think it would be even less because for 3 months.
Yeah, exactly. It would
So,
definitely be less.
but yeah, I don't know.
It's like there's
I felt
probably countless days. Seeing that it takes them, it seems like 5-6 days sometimes in between dailies. I'm sure if for the players they watch a season of the challenge and go, those 2-3 weeks that we spent in there that not 1 second got on TV.
oh, absolutely. And I think, I don't know, the reason I wanted to bring that up is just because I think it's again part of like a larger conversation.
Yeah.
And I do like that Frank he said he doesn't want to bring Corey into it. He was having a very hard time, but I do like that he did because I think that's important. Out.
Yeah, absolutely. Very important. Anything else you want to add?
I don't think so. I'm
All
ready
right.
if you are.
So let's move on to the cast going out for the night. And I just had to laugh at the beginning. We see Turbo finally has an ally on the challenge, and it's the fish swimming around the bar who become his best friends.
Yeah, and then he starts talking about how like the animals are so pure. Or I don't even know what he was saying, but I thought it was kind of funny.
I mean, I never
Which
really know half of what Turbo's saying, but
I mean, half the time again, like in it, but I like to listen to it.
yeah,
But then Adam kind of talks about how, again, this is bringing it up again, how at this point on All Stars 4, his star was from him, and he wants Steve to apologize to him for taking his star, and they kind of have a very strange conversation.
yeah. I didn't take this. Maybe I was wrong, but I didn't take watching this as if it was that seriously. I almost thought they were just kind of joking for airtime. But
I think Adam really wanted the apology.
mm, interesting.
And then Steve says, like, apologizing to me means that you regret what you did. And he's like, I don't regret it, but I felt like I had no choice. I don't know. I don't think that they're even having problems in their relationship, but I just thought that was kind of funny that Steve was like, I'm not going to apologize for this.
Yeah, exactly. And then we see another clip at the bar where Davon refers to Shane as a villain to Frank, literally within about a few feet or a meter of Shane. Did
Yeah,
she
and
just completely misspeak and not look behind her, or did she do that on purpose? That's what I want to know.
I don't think she did it on purpose because just how we've seen Davon, I feel like she genuinely was like, "Oh shit!" Like, what? I forgot he was here too. But yeah, I don't know. It was
Sometimes those
kind of
kind of things
funny.
happen.
Yeah.
Watching watching this just brought me back to when I was a brand new employee, and I apologized off microphone to a colleague for making a mistake, and she goes, doesn't realize that she's on microphone with the rest of the class in who are situated all over the country and not just one desk over from me, and goes, "That's okay. You make less mistakes than the rest of these people."
Oh my God, that's funny. But at least it was like a compliment.
Yeah, except for all the people she was saying don't know how to do their job were listening on the other end of the line.
Um, we see that Melissa is being very flirty, or Nicole is being very flirty with Melissa. Kind of,
Yeah,
they both are.
I
And
think
then she
it's
also,
kind of mutual at this point.
yeah, and then she goes back and talks to her girlfriend and brings Melissa to say hi, which I thought was very strange, given
Yeah,
that they kissed like 2 episodes ago.
yeah, that was very strange. But I mean, hey, I don't know what to say. Obviously, that's not morally right, but Nicole's girlfriend also knows that her girlfriend is Nicole Zanetta, who has this reputation on television dating back many years. So you kind of know what you're getting into if you even entertain the prospect of a romantic relationship with Nicole.
Yeah, I agree with you. But I do think like if obviously you should never cheat on your significant
Yeah,
other. What I think like
completely.
because do you remember when Melissa kissed Nicole on the lips?
Yeah,
Like yeah, exactly. And then Nicole is like instead of being like, "Oh no," she's like, "Oh, I'm in love with you." And then she starts picking her up in the gym and everything. They start to like wrestle all the time. So I think if like that to me is cheating.
yeah, I'd agree.
And I think instead of going on the phone being like, I miss you so much, tell her, hey, I can't continue this because to me that's better than going um or having her fiance watch it back or like finding out after the season that like while she was missing her, then Nicole was having fun.
I mean, at least it's Melissa and not Nicole's girlfriend's cousin. as we saw before.
With
Nicole hooked up with Loyal's cousin.
oh, and she hooked up with um her ride or die Jack's sister on her wedding.
That's who I meant.
Yeah.
Sister.
So yeah, I don't know. Nicole has a very bad reputation as a girlfriend, I think.
Yeah, stay away, ladies of New
Yeah.
York City.
Or any lady that goes on TV because
Yeah.
we've seen her.
We've seen Melissa way back in the day trying to figure out how far New York is from Liverpool because of Nicole.
Yeah, I don't know how Nicole does it, but she like gets whoever she wants on reality TV.
I don't get it. I never will. All right, and then after we get that awkward situation, we do go into the house vote, and surprisingly, the house gives Nany and Turbo their wish. I was surprised here. I thought we were going to get a scene where Nany and Turbo predictably vote for themselves, and then the rest of the house all says, we respect Nany and Turbo's request, but they're a really strong team and they can win this game. So we're going to vote in Melissa and Nicole.
So I actually was not that surprised that they did that because the other teams have been working together pretty much the whole season.
Yeah.
Like we saw Nicole had a really good relationship with Veronica, Frank and Sam were also in the Veronicas. Um, like same with Adam and Steve. And then Shane and Davon. I guess Davon is close to Nani.
Yeah.
But the reason I wasn't really surprised is because when, like, anytime we see somebody that nominates themselves for elimination, even though you think, oh, I don't want to go against this person in a final, I feel like you also think, I don't want to make an enemy because,
Fair.
like, we've worked together all season, and you know what? Like, as long as it's not me, because you also have to think, like, I don't want me in,
Yeah.
so let's give them what they want.
Yeah, that's true. I guess it just means that we will get a final with 4 teams. So that's good for us as viewers. But if you're playing, it's probably, well, decreases your odds by 13 or 9% to win the entire show.
Yeah.
And gives you a chance of coming outside the top 3.
Yeah, but also you don't know how the final is going to be.
You sure don't. That's
like
true.
unpredictable. So even though like you see the super strong teams, you're probably more in a point where you're like, I'm almost there. I need to just get through this last elimination
Yeah.
and make it to the final, and then we can work our ass off there. And I think that's more of the mindset at the end because people always say this on the challenge, but the only thing worse than going out first is going out last.
Yeah.
Which I don't know.
Makes sense.
But before the elimination, Turbo talks about how he won his first season, and right now like his whole goal on the challenge is to make Nany a champion.
Yep.
Like, I don't know, I love how even though they bicker and argue, I just love seeing how he like loves Nany and he just wants Nany to win ever since his first season.
Yeah, I love that as well. Which then when we get into elimination is just hilarious when Adam asked Nany, how do you put up with Turbo?
But do you have anything before we head into the elimination?
No, go ahead.
Elimination is called Star Bluff. They must attempt to deceive the other team whether or not they have a star in their box. And then each time, if they guess correctly, they get a point. If they guess incorrectly, the other team gets a point. They do that for 5 rounds. And then the second portion of the game, based on how many points you got, then you get an advantage of one less yoga ball that you have to move over. And then this part is really similar to I think like suspending an object between 2 sticks and trying to move it without dropping it,
Yeah.
which is what they had to do.
I was a bit confused here as to why it was 5 rounds, because that meant that the teams had a unequal number of how much they participated in each round of the question, in each type of the questioning.
I think I do know that before every elimination they draw like a dice or something or
Mm,
to pick which side they're going to be on. So
yeah,
it's always random. So I think it was probably like a random thing of
probably.
who's
It
going to go
just seemed like they
first.
should have done it with 6 rounds.
Yeah, I agree. Um it was a strange
A
number.
kind of added controversy that you don't need.
Yeah, 100%.
But this show seems
Um
to like controversies and eliminations. I'm looking at you, Nuis, on social media.
yeah. And well, they don't like when people try to insinuate things
Yeah,
that aren't true. Anyways,
yeah,
Frank says that it's obvious he was going to put in Adam and Steve. He was like, saying from the start, I want to leave that can beat me. And Adam is not happy about
yeah.
this. He was like, I trusted you. Which, like,
You can't
I
blame
don't know.
either of them. I
Exactly.
see Adam not being happy. At the same time, Adam and Steve are clearly the. If you're gonna have to bet on who's going to win the final, you would probably pick them at this point, especially if you had two bets, you would pick them and you would pick Nany and Turbo.
Mm-hmm.
So you're at least this way getting a team that most people consider to be a big threat out of the game no matter what happens.
Yeah, and I think at the end of the day, like obviously it would be different like somebody like Veronica and Katie. They
Yeah,
probably wouldn't have voted in Adam and Steve because
right.
they've had such a long relationship. And I think at the end of the game, like when you're at the last elimination, it's kind of all bets are off unless
Yeah,
you have a super deep connection with another team that you're not ever gonna say their name. It's just like we're I'm sorry, we work together, but unfortunately you are the strongest team here, so I'm gonna send you in.
but at that point, it almost has to be an extremely good connection
When
for to not want to throw somebody in at this point if you think they can beat you.
oh yeah, like
It
it
would
would
have
have to
to be
be
like Devin winning and having a team that's Tori and Michelle there.
yeah. Or like Bananas always says he voted in Leroy.
Yeah,
Um
exactly.
Leroy gave him bad karma. So I don't know if he's gonna take his revenge. But um another
We'll
example
see.
on
They're allegedly both playing in 41 right now somewhere out in South America.
yeah, hopefully we get some revenge there because well, actually, I don't really care, but Bananas just looks like a fool because he's like, Leroy's my best friend, and then he gave him one karma point. Um,
Yeah.
anyways, what did you think of the first part of this elimination?
I thought this was really good to watch. I just like the fact that we had some sort of event happening in the elimination arena that wasn't just physical and that really revolved around people's political and social skills. So the game that's being played in the house was now being played in a smaller scale on the floor of the arena in front of the rest of the players.
Yeah, I didn't think of that comparison, but I agree, and I don't know, I just had a lot of fun watching the like everybody was laughing and they like obviously it is part of the elimination, but there's no really a way to take this seriously
No,
because it's a 50-50 shot.
yeah.
It
And Adam and
think it
Steve
had to
just
do
deciding
with
to put on a
acting.
whole show instead of actually playing the game and answering the questions was such a good strategy here.
Yeah, Adam did say that he was or he talked about like deception techniques or some that he was listening to or studying, I don't know. Said something about Nani turning to the left, which is like a tell-all sign of lying or whatever. Um, but yeah, they ended up getting a 1 point or one ball advantage against Nani and Turbo.
Yeah. Which ends up not really mattering all that much, but I think personally it came down more to the strategy between these two. But it did matter in a way because the fact that they had that one ball disadvantage triggered Nany and Turbo to think that they have to adapt their strategy, and it probably cost them. Especially when you see that ball that they got all the way to the end and then missed it over top.
And I genuinely think even if it was even, or even if Nany and Turbo had an advantage, I don't think that they would really win
Yeah, I'd agree.
this against many teams. Because I think, especially Turbo, he's more of like a chaotic, aggressive player. Like
Turbo was
a
the type that's just
headbanger
gonna,
elimination
even in a
is,
challenge like this, want to grab it and run as opposed to trying to stay focused.
yeah. I think Adam and Steve do like being smart in like doing it, working smarter, not harder, I guess.
Yeah.
And I think Turbo is every time he's in a competition where there's risk that high, he just turns it on and wants to go crazy. I don't know. I expect Adam and Steve to win just based off that second part of the elimination.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd agree. All right, so moving on, who's your player team of the week?
Well, I just want to say real quick,
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
so TJ kind of informed everybody that they have officially made the final.
That's right.
And then one last part about Nany and Turbo. They said that they're leaving this game as family, and I really loved watching those two compete together, like I've
Same.
talked about. I love how Turbo just is like only there to get Nany her win.
Yeah,
And I was kind of sad to see them go.
same. I was hoping that for a while that she would get that win that she's been trying so long for, but unfortunately, it doesn't seem to be. Nani's a great player in the history of the challenge. It doesn't seem to be her game to actually come out on top.
Yeah, and
We'll see what maybe All Star 6 holds.
yeah, I don't know. I feel like Nany Nany could definitely. We saw her get to a win on Ride or Dies,
Yeah,
also on Free Agents. Like I think it definitely could happen. She's had so many chances and
that's
hasn't
it.
gotten it. But I also think there is always a luck component to whatever, like someone like Amber B, who was running the final with CT.
Yeah,
Even though she's super athletic, she can't do puzzles, she can't do math. Her luck was being partnered with somebody who can.
yeah, exactly.
So, I don't know. I could definitely still see Nany get her first win.
Oh, I'm sure
But it just
there'll be another
depends.
chance.
Yeah, there's a lot of factors in there.
Yeah,
But anyways, my team of the week was Sam and Frank. I
nice.
picked them because they won 3 dailies, and even though they're not the most physically intimidating team, because like Sam isn't as physically intimidating as um Frank or whatever, like they were able to kind of fly under the radar for
Yeah,
a lot of this season, which kept them out of the elimination for the whole game. And they won 3 dailies. I did hear Sam said that when she went to All Stars, like when they got there, she started working out every day, and
mm,
she's continued ever since. And I think she said she's lost like 40 pounds or
wow.
something, but which amazing by her. Super happy for her. But I think they have just played the game very well.
So my team of the week is Adam and Steve. Both of them just seem to be, like I said earlier, really the most in control, the most knowledgeable about what's going on, and also won their fifth elimination in one season. That's certainly a number that not many people have been able to do. Usually, if you get to
A
be in
record.
that, yeah, usually if you get to be in that spot in the challenge where you're having the house just throw you in week after week, it's eventually you find something you can't do and you go home. And in Adam and Steve's case, they've only really been able to break that up by winning a couple of dailies and thus creating some more drama in the house with less predictable votes. But they've still been routinely targeted when they're not safe and have found their way all to a final. And at this point, I hope they win.
Yeah, I genuinely think they just deserve it because
Yeah.
they have worked their asses off, and I could not agree with more that I hope they win. My loser of the week team was Nany and Turbo because to me, during the elimination, it was almost like they had already given up. Like once they got their star stolen, even at the beginning of the day, like they were kind of checked out because they kind of knew that like either I'm not going to get in the elimination or whatever. And then I think knowing that they had a disadvantage of one ball, it just kind of caused them to like go frantic, not even strategically try to move the balls. And I don't know. I don't think it was their best performance. And then also Shane for being rude.
Yeah. Very well said. I put Shane and Davon as my team here. Like you said, mostly Shane for being rude. It's not really Davon's fault, but at the same point, I even did think with that like lack of awareness on Davon's part to make a comment about Shane while he was right there. This team is not working well together at all. And if they make the final, they could be the complete hot mess team of this season that I anticipate. Of these four teams, I would think that they're going to come fourth in the final.
Yeah, especially after they just had a big argument now, even though they like try to work out their differences. You saw like Davon was literally sobbing at
Yeah,
the end. Like, and I don't know, I just you can tell she was very, very hurt with what Shane said to her.
yeah,
So I don't know.
absolutely.
We'll have to
I
see how
mean,
that.
and we do see that point where they decide to work together and not to go home. I think that that has something to do with the fact that they had a good idea that they weren't going in, and the final is also now. So, I mean, you're going home in 48 hours anyway. If that happens in the middle of the season, I think they're probably done.
Oh yeah, 'cause especially like um just being that hurt by your
Yeah,
partner, maybe you're like maybe I mean again, we don't know what was said, so maybe it was something that she was like this is personal or this is something that is a hard no for me.
exactly.
But yeah, I agree with you there.
Any last thoughts before we wrap up for the second last time of this season?
I'm ready for the final.
Yeah,
I'm
same.
excited.
Should be really good. Lot
But yeah,
four completely different teams in this final, so that'll be fascinating to watch. And it is an All Stars final, so we never know what TJ is going to throw at them.
yeah, I don't know. I'm thinking Adam and Steve for the win and Frank and Sam second.
Yeah, that would be good.
Shane Davon last, Melissa and Nicole third. That's
Yeah,
my
I could see
prediction.
that. So we'll be back next time talking about the results of said final. I think for All Stars it's probably only a one part episode, unlike the main show. So I'd imagine we'll have a winner by the next time we're here. And then after that, this podcast will probably be taking a bit of time off. But I mean, whenever MTV drops the cast photos for 41, we will be back doing our official cast review. We've hinted at a bit with the rumors, but I know the internet's never 100%. So we will see who's on it probably sometime in July.
Yeah, I don't know because usually, at least for the past few seasons, we've seen like the um during the final of the season that's concluding,
Yeah,
that's when they start teasing the other one. So I don't know. Maybe probably in June, I would say they would
yeah,
release the cast photos
that
and
would
then
make
probably
sense.
start either late July or early August.
Makes sense. Probably a few weeks earlier than last year, because I know last year for 40, they started in the middle of August.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I went down to the watch party in New York City. And by starting in the middle of August, 40 ended up running through the Christmas holidays and created a mess. I mean, the election didn't help with the timeline either, but
Mm-hmm.
hopefully they can like maybe start a little earlier this year and wrap up 40 like the week before Christmas
Yeah, I really hope
or
that they
41
do.
and not just have
Um,
2 weeks off.
yeah, I didn't like when we had the week thing off. It was just annoying.
Yeah,
Because then it's like, what even happened last episode? So long.
that's it.
But anyways, thank you everybody for listening. Do you have anything else
No,
before we?
have a great rest of your week, all.